people! Here we are back at it again with another Pretty Cure team designing. Since we are entering a new era of the Pretty Cure franchise with their 21st installment, Wonderful Pretty Cure, I thought it'd be fun if we decide to go back in time and design the first team of Pretty Cures to have ever existed. Yes, I am talking about the ancient Pretty Cures. Yeah, you heard me right. All the way from 1,000 years ago. Let's go! So, we're starting off with Holly Paris, aka Cure Amazon. And while I'm on the topic, I am going to mention at least a few interesting facts. Not only they're the first team of Pretty Cures who actually were ever existed, but they're actually the only team of Pretty Cures who actually lost to the enemy.
What? What?
Yep, they were the rulers of the 5 United Kingdoms as the kings and the queens. They fought against the doom and gloom who wanted to spread negativity and evil through their kingdom. They won 47 battles. However, they unfortunately did not win the war. Their queen, the doom and gloom's queen, actually defeated them. But Tadlin, their mascot, tried to help them out, but this resulted in her sacrificing herself, and they weren't as powerful with her, and they were all defeated. Yikes! The queen actually imprisoned them and sealed them in negative stones, and they were trapped for over 1,000 years. No Pretty Cure was ever seen until Futariwa Pretty Cure many, many years later. Wow, sorry about that. That's a pretty sad story for them to have. But there's a catch. I had the idea that they would be the main focus and target of Banjo and Kazooie in a fan-made Pretty Cure All-Star series called Banjo-Kazooie and the Pretty Cure All-Stars, where they are finally freed from their 1,000-year-old prison. Okay, so now that you've learned a little bit about the team in general, let's learn about their members, okay? So, all of the ancient Pretty Cures, except for Cure Seashell, which we will see in a little bit, are married and they have children. And they all have their own descendants. I haven't designed Holly's descendant yet, but she is a Tropical Rouge OC. She is Australian and she's based on the Great Barrier Reef. So, Holly was the queen of the Nature Kingdom. She was the team's group leader, and she proudly protected her subjects and family with pride and compassion. She transformed into Cure Amazon, the Pretty Cure of Earth. We're going to be moving on to the line art now, and I'm going to say this real quick. All of the ancient Pretty Cures in this video, except for Tadlin, their mascot, they were all inspired by the ancient cookies in Cookie Run Kingdom, which I have been playing every night in my bed for the past few days. I really like the story of Cookie Run Kingdom, and they inspired me to make these characters, okay? Now that I'm working on the line art, I have to tell you one thing. Cure Amazon is actually French, and I tried to make her outfit based on the French Revolution, but you know, it's a fantasy anime series. It doesn't have to be historically accurate. I tried to make it historically accurate, but you know, I failed. And none of the concept arts actually have their eyes shown, so I decided to give them the eye color I thought suit them. And for Holly, I decided to give her green eyes. I wasn't really sure how I was going to tie all the pretty cures together to make them look like a cohesive team, but I thought about their lore a little bit, and they were chosen as pretty cure because they had the purest hearts that shine in the true light. So I decided to give all the pretty cures a heart somewhere on the center of their bodies, like their torso areas. And for Cure Amazon, it's on her belt around her stomach. I'm gonna move on to the coloring now. And Cure Amazon is a pink colored cure. Chronologically, she was the first pink colored cure in Pretty Cure history. And chronologically, she was also the first plus sized Pretty Cure ever. And her curvy body type was actually passed down to her current descendant, Cure Reef, who is a spitting image of Holly despite coming from Australia. Originally in the concept art, she had green braids around her space bones with weird looking things coming out of it. But I decided to change it to just be a crown because she is the queen of the Earth Kingdom. Plus, I thought it would work better for her anyway. Oh, and for her glove situation, I decided I was going to give her gloves that were transparent and we can see her skin tone underneath. I thought that was pretty cool since none of the Pretty Cures have a translucent like gloves at all. After some more shading and some highlights off camera, Queen Holly Perry, aka Cure Amazon, the Pretty Cure of nature, is done. Alrighty guys, so next up we have Derek Zephyr, aka Cure Steel. He was one of two males in this Pretty Cure team, and chronologically the first male Pretty Cure in history. And he was the king of the Snow Kingdom or the Wind Kingdom. I haven't fully decided yet. He was a proud and noble leader, ready to stand up for all of his subjects. Normally, he's called by his last name, Zephyr. I did mention that all of the Pretty Cures have descendants that are in the present time, but I wasn't really sure about Derek's descendants. The closest characters from Pretty Cure that I actually have that are similar to Zephyr are Sarah and Zoro Mujano from my fan-made series, Danganronpa, the Pretty Cure Killing Program. And I don't think he'll ever meet them because also they're not canon. So yeah, I'm not really sure if Night and Day Pretty Cure are the most suitable for the descendants of King Zephyr. Starting on the line art for Derek now, and because he was 54, the oldest Pretty Cure and the oldest member of the team, I decided to give him a little mustache, and I decided to base him a little bit off of Chinese or Japanese culture. So he has this little thing around his waist, that a belt, and a little thing that goes around the front of his skirt, his kilt. And I decided to give him long sleeves as well. Oh, and later on, I decided I was going to give him blue eyes because I thought that would be a striking contrast between his dark color palette. Originally in the concept art, he had these purple jewels on his head accessory, but I decided to remove them in the final concept. I think I just forgot that I actually gave him that. And now it's time to move on to the coloring, and despite being a black colored Pretty Cure, he's normally grouped with the purple Pretty Cures, and he has a silver armor plate and silver metal gloves alongside his black purple heart on his chest. After adding the highlights and more shading off camera, King Derek Zephyr, the pretty cure of Snow Cure Steel is complete. Okay, so third on the list we have Paris Highlander, Cure Holy. He was the king of the Light Kingdom, and he was a kind and compassionate leader who looked after everyone. We know about Cure Holy's family tree the most, as he has two known descendants. He has Cure Lace, Hiragatu Sky Pretty Cure OC, and her aunt is also a Pretty Cure as well. And I have to tell you this real quick about Paris's family. All of his descendants have heterochromia. They can have whatever color eye that they married into, but all babies born under his descendant will have their left eye be yellow, and most of the time it is closed. The demonstration comes from Paris's own eyes himself. You don't get to see his yellow eye in this final drawing because it is covered by his hair. I'm so sorry. Okay, so now it's time for the line art. He was chronologically the second male Pretty Cure, and chronologically the first yellow Pretty Cure. Yep, he was the chronologically first yellow one. I'm not really sure what the heck is going on with his front area. Like, you know, his chest plate thing. Originally in the concept art it was symmetrical, but I ended up deciding to make it asymmetrical because I ended up liking that a lot better than the symmetry. Now we're moving on to the coloring and shading. Paris, I had some trouble designing an idea for what ancient time outfit I wanted to give him that was historically accurate. So I just decided to drop the historical accurateness and just give him an outfit that looks like one of those Disney princes. I think the Disney prince outfit works better for Paris than if I just went with a historical accurate outfit. Despite officially being a yellow pretty cure, Cure Holy has more white on both of his designs rather than yellow. Like, he's wearing a white shirt as Paris, but as Cure Holy, he has an entire overshirt that is white. And the underlayer of his outfit is yellow, with yellow shoes as well. After some more shading off camera, King Paris Highlander, the pretty cure of light cure holy, is done. Alrighty, so the fourth member of the ancient pretty cures is Lydia Burnlight. She might actually be my favorite, which is kind of a surprise because I personally thought she was going to be my least favorite because she was inspired by Golden Cheese Cookie, and at the time when I first started playing Cookie Run, I wasn't really attached to the Golden Cheese Cookie, but I think Cure Blaze might be my favorite of these group of pretty cures. She's the queen of the Fire Kingdom, and she protected her city of gold from any harm. She loved gold, but she loved her people more and shared her gold with her husband and daughter. In fact, she loved her family so much that she sent them away before the final battle against the Queen of Darkness. Which means, actually, all of the pretty cures actually sent their families away before the final battle against the Queen of Darkness. As you can see right now, I'm trying to give Lydia a more curvier body type. I tried to give her more thicker arms and thicker legs. I wanted them all to have a diverse body type, with Cure Seaweed being the only one who is thin like most pretty cures. You'll see that later. Okay, so now we're moving on to the line art. And she's actually an orange colored pedicure. You know, she's chronologically the first orange pedicure. However, she has a lot of red on her as Lydia. And she doesn't have a lot of orange at all as Lydia either. And she has a crown that is gold. She has a thing on her shawl, her front part that is gold. She has a gold belt and gold bracelets, and one of her boots is actually gold. In the concept art, it was originally yellow, but I decided to change it to gold because I don't know why. Maybe I kind of like it. Now we're moving on to the shading, and Blaze gave me a lot, and I mean a lot, of trouble with her shading. Now that I'm looking at the final version of Cure Blaze, I actually forgot. It was such a struggle. I forgot to shade the front part of her crown, the triangle portion of her crown. It's gonna annoy me just a little bit, but you know, it's perfectly fine. Let's pretend that it's her source of her fire powers. Okay? Okay. There was so much gold on this character that she's basically one of the shiniest characters I've ever created. Makes me wonder why she has so much gold on her cure form. But I'm not digressing. I really like the final version of Cure Blaze. In fact, like I said earlier, she might possibly be my favorite of the ancient Pretty-Cures. Oh, and speaking of which, I am going to rename the team of ancient Pretty-Cures because now that they have been shown and revealed, they can't be called the ancient Pretty-Cure anymore. So later on, I'm going to ask the wiki on what should we call the ancient Pretty-Cures now. I didn't want to reveal their team name at first, but I think it would be better than to reveal it instead of calling them the Ancients from now on. After some finishing touches, Empress Lydia Birdlight, the Pretty-Cure of Fire, Cure Blaze, is all complete in her golden glory. right, we have 2 more members to go, and we're next up is the final of the ancient pretty cures. Wendy White, aka Cure Seaweed, and she's actually the only one who isn't human. Yep, Cure Seaweed is a mermaid. She's the princess of the Water Kingdom. She's the youngest of the pretty cures and the only one who wasn't married before the final battle. But she does have a sister, and her sister actually has the descendants of Wendy for her. So Wendy is actually an aunt, a great aunt actually. She normally likes to visit her friends on the surface and rarely is seen in the Water Kingdom. Oh, and unlike Laura, the second mermaid pretty cure, Cure Seaweed never became a human at all. The only time she actually became a human was as Cure Seaweed, when she transformed into a pretty cure. But when she was freed from her 1,000-year-old prison, she lost her mermaid form for good. Yikes. We're moving on to the line art now, and her coloring later on was such a struggle. Originally, she had more blue in her design than green, but I decided to switch the colors a little bit and put more green in her outfit than blue. I think green works better because her name is Cure Seaweed, and she's a seaweed themed pretty cure. She actually likes seaweed more than any other thing in the ocean. You know, seaweed is mostly her favorite snack to actually snack on when she's in the water. Okay, now it's time to move on to the coloring. We know Princess Wendy White, the pretty cure of the seas, cures seaweed the least of all of the pretty cures. Any archaeologists don't know not much about her, and overall she's the least known of the 5 ancient pretty cures. All that we know of her so far is that she was chronologically the first green colored pretty cure. She is also chronologically the first blue colored pretty cure. She's both blue and green. And chronologically, she was the first pretty cure who wasn't born human. However, due to the fact that she was trapped in that cell for 1,000 years, she was permanently turned into a human, unfortunately. Before we call Princess Wendy done, I have a little mini tutorial on how I did her scales. I was looking at a reference of Laura Kier-Lamer for her tail, but I decided I do have a tutorial on how I did her scales, and I'm going to be showing you that right now. Okay, so here's how I did Lauren's scales. Real quick, I selected the area, and then I'm going to import a pattern from image, which is a mermaid scale, and flip it around to match the curve of the tail, and then I set it to multiply. No, overlay, no. I'll figure out what setting I want to put it over, but then I just take a darker color and just set that the color and then color the scales that way. With this, here's the Okay, and last but not least, we have the mascot of this team, Tad Lin. She was responsible for giving all the Pretty Cures powers, like the other mascots of the series. Just like Ellie Chan, she was targeted by the enemies to be destroyed and killed. Unfortunately, though, Tad Lin ended up deciding to sacrifice herself and ended up being destroyed and killed during the final battle, so that the Pretty Cures can defeat the Queen of Darkness. But unfortunately, they ended up not being as strong as Tad Lin thought they were, and they ended up being defeated and they failed. This is a little bit upsetting, to say the least, but she's actually the only member of the ancient Pretty Cure team who's actually dead. Yikes. Which is a shame. So sad. Anyway, Tenlin, I am doing the coloring and shading off camera, just like I did with Kit, and Tenlin is finally done. The Pretty Cures may have been defeated by the hands of darkness, but their story is far from over. When the time is right, they will return, and they will be set free from this cursed, joyless prison, and their once exalted and successful enemy will finally see her doom.